There's a lot people have said about Cyberpunk 2077 since release. The internet tends to focus on negative aspects of just about everything, and if you're looking for more negative things about Cyberpunk, well, you come to the wrong place. My perspective of most games, including ones that are generally bad, is that I still find good and fun out of it. However, when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077, I genuinely think that it's one of my favorite games that I've ever played. And maybe because it hit everything I was looking for in a game like this. I wanted a futuristic world to get lost in and enjoy what it had to offer. I'm not sure what it was I wanted out of the game when pre-release was ramping up. I knew I was going to buy it regardless, especially due to it being made by CD Projekt Red, and with how much I love the Witcher series, it was going to happen. Then I saw all the footage before release and realized it was going to be similar in a way to Deus Ex, and I was all the way ready. That style of world, from the Deus Ex series, Blade Runner, Altered Carbon, and so on, is one of my favorites. However, looking at sales for those series, they tend to be on the low side, especially Blade Runner 2049. Hopefully I'm not alone in liking that genre. People wanted a game on the scale of GTA meeting Witcher 3. I understand where the hype came from, but that wasn't where the game seemed like it was going, and the public has hated Cyberpunk since. I played the game as I played Witcher 3. I have my story that I must accomplish, but I'm also a mercenary, aka Witcher, for hire. The bugs here and there still in the game, I created my own story reason that I'll mention later. Well, hopefully after this video, others will understand why I find it so great, and possibly turn some heads to wanting to experience it themselves, or at least share what it is that they also enjoyed about it. This video is going to go over the entirety of the story, a good portion of the side quests, and characters of the game. Due to how the game is an RPG with some variations to how the game can go, I'll be focusing on my experience with the game, and some mentions of what can change at times. The video will be organized as to how the game went, with a story chunk and some side quests, and then after each major act, go back and forth. I'll try and keep it as organized as possible, and as you see by the length of the video, I have a lot to say about the game. With all that out of the way, let's jack into Cyberpunk 2077. The game kicks off with the character creator and the background choices for your character named V. These three choices, Nomad, Street Kid, and Corpo, only affects the beginning 10 to 20 minutes of the game, and then some dialogue options throughout the game. I've only ever played Street Kid and Nomad because I have no interest in playing as Corpo. For the purposes of this playthrough, I stuck with Nomad. The character creation is also pretty detailed, but not as close to, say, Elden Ring or something. Plus it's a first-person game with some times here and there where you can see the character, so it didn't bother me. The goal of the intro of the game is to show you what it's like to be leaving the Nomad life and meeting Janky Wells. Each starting point just changes how you meet Janky. I honestly prefer the Nomad choice because you get to see the outside of the city early on and what life is like, especially with this extremely typical sheriff that you would see on a really bad TV show.
Don't you know you owe the sheriff a word when you pay his town a visit? To tell him what's brought you here. Maybe even over a cup of coffee.
You then go to meet the one and only Janky Wells, who's a pretty great character. His voice acting is well done and it's interesting to hang out with for some of these missions. Your goal is to get into Nice City through a cool looking checkpoint area. The one issue with this intro is that if it is your first time playing, the shooting while moving session doesn't feel very good. I think I've done this intro about 5 different times at this point, and I still don't like shooting while the car is moving. But at least you get to see an iguana in the game's intro movie. It makes me wonder what they were planning on doing with the expansion for this game. I always thought it would take place during these 6 months that the game jumps over, but after playing the game, I'm not so sure anymore. You immediately start the next mission, which is one that was shown pre-release. It's mostly the introduction of the game's combat systems and the world of Night City, with how people communicate, the way they live with trash everywhere, and the enhancements everyone has in their body. I also went back to record this section due to losing some footage, and this is the first time I ever did this section through stealth. It plays differently and is nice to see. I normally went in guns blazing and had a blast, but this was interesting to me. You then save a woman named Sandra Dorset and see how dope this EMS package that she has come to save her.
Initiating security protocol. Follow all instructions. Place the patient on the ground. Five steps back. Now. TT-133 to control. Patient NC570442 secured. Stimulants being administered. 70 milligrams dopamine, 110 norepinephrine, 800 fibrinogen.
Back to the city in your apartment. Here's where you meet the first Ripper Dog of the city, Victor. These Ripper Dogs change how you live, with enhancements and ways of life, essentially extending how long you live and what you can do with your everyday life. This is the type of future that has always interested me and freaked me out at the same time. I don't know how I'd feel about losing an eye just like this. Seems just odd, but dope. Essentially, this intro is a small-scale version of what the whole game ends up being. You meet a fixer, named Dexter Deshawn, who gives you a job. You get multiple ways of handling it, with meeting an optional contact, which makes the mission play out several different ways. I normally always did this the exact same way, however this time I killed Royce right away, which changed the ending of this level entirely. There was no final boss, and the Militech crew that came in changed. It was a nice touch, but it shows that there are different outcomes to a lot of the choices in this game. Before reaching the end level of the prologue, you meet two other major characters, Evelyn Parker and Judy. I'm gonna say it now, Judy's my favorite character in the entire game, so if I show bias to that later, well, I'm gonna give you a heads up. Here's where you experience BDs, or brain dances. It's basically used for porn, but use it for investigations here and there during the game. It's pretty unique. You and Janky get to infiltrate Konpeki Plaza, the major corporate building head of Arasaka, to retrieve a relic biochip. You don't know much about what it is, just that you need it and it'll make you rich. You get into the building, and here's where the true story of the game starts. Yorinobu Arasaka kills his father, Saburo Arasaka, right in front of you, claims it to be poisoning, and you and Janky must flee. It's actually pretty well done. T-Bug, the person who's been helping you with from the sideline, dies, and you make a shootout to leave. A giant robot named Adam Smasher tries to kill you, and Janky gets shot. Everyone you've known for about the past 2 to 3 hours is dead or dying. You then get back to Dex with Janky, who is dead next to you. It's a sad scene, but effective. The relic that you were there to collect is now in your head to carry away as you meet with Dex. It's kind of insane that you don't get to explain here in the dialogue options that, hey, Yorinobu killed his dad, it wasn't me. But instead, the game puts you in this path. In order for the story to continue, I understand, but they could have at least had you say it and Dex not believe you. But with that, well, it doesn't look so good, and that's the end of the prologue.
Me.
Here is where the game changes, and it took me a bit to be on board. After you die, you wake up as someone else, Johnny Silverhand, aka Keanu Reeves. I'm not a huge fan of Keanu, but I enjoy John Wick a hell of a lot. I don't think he's the greatest actor, but for this, I eventually was all the way on board. You're controlling this man, doing a rock concert, and then storming Arasaka Tower. However, this is taking place in the far-flung future of 2023. In case you didn't notice, well, that's over 50 years prior to the year of Cyberpunk. This is the last moments of Johnny's life, and it's fun as hell. The pistol that he uses is beyond satisfying. You get captured by the younger robot version of Adam Smasher, and then see an explosion in the background. You're placed into the relic that was collected during the heist. This caused you to come back to life, but with a twist. You get rescued by the guy who's trying to hunt you after he takes care of Dexter Deshawn. Come to find out, he believes you, and you and him work together to bring down Yorinobu's Arasaka. I can never say that name right. However, you have something slowly killing you from the inside. Johnny Silverhand is now with you at all times. The relic he is in is rewriting the inside of your mind, basically slowly pushing you into the sunken place like in Get Out, but only in a way. Johnny wants to steal your body, but the new goal is to cure this from happening while bringing down Yorinobu. It's a good setup to me. My first goal before jumping into the side mission was to find Evelyn Parker from the beginning of the heist, and see if she can help. Well, she's missing, and we get a lead that she's in a place called Clouds. I guess the best way to explain Clouds is that it's basically a dollhouse. After some investigation, you find out that Evelyn had a mishap when she was with a client, and it's time to try and rescue her. Maybe a good time to mention that there's just a ton of shitty people in this world, and this quest shows several of them. With the help of Judy, you find Evelyn and bring her back. She's basically comatose, and the only thing you can do now is wait for her to get better while also trying to get closer to Judy. At least that's what I did. Well, here's where I met a special fixture named Rogue, who will be talked about more later, see a glimpse of a recurring character named Panam, but here is where I decided to dive into the world of side content. I wouldn't say to get onto the scale of, say, Witcher 3, like the Bloody Baron quest, but I definitely enjoyed what Cyberpunk had to offer. It was strange and worthwhile to see, mostly because I wanted to stay in this world and see what there was. However, just know that if you fail a quest, there is no way of restarting unless you reload a save, which is why I can't speak on some of them here. Most of the quests may seem basic, such as fetch quests or do something and they'll pay you, but the dialogue and what you see on the way is enjoyable. I found a guy in a fridge who needed to be taken elsewhere, but I may or may not have accidentally killed him during the firefight. A man named Jesse who had an unfortunate mishap with an implant. Some religious folks who are against implants but were forced to have implants. A cop who's very upset about seeing a kid get killed. And someone named Andrew pass away, except Andrew is a turtle. Alright, back on track with the main story. You meet with the fixer Rogue, who worked with Johnny in the past and is now one of the best fixers in the Night City. I can never say fixer right, I don't know why. She gives you information about Pan Am, the second best character in Night City. You need to work with her in order to bring down someone who has information about how to try and cure the relic that's inside of your head. You also learn that Pan Am is a nomad, and there is a huge amount of story with her and the nomads that end up being optional, but is some of the best content in the game coming up. You reach Pan Am, have a conversation about what is to come, and for some reason when I recorded this, half of the conversation was during a sandstorm and no one seemed to care.
What's wrong with this one?
It's borrowed. It's not mine. I asked where my car is.
But my middle story with that is that some of the bugs is that V's perception of the relic is going crazy because of the relic killing her. It's also how I got over just about every bug. Also, quick side note, you can start a romance with Pan Am, but I think she only goes with it if you're a male character, so I got shot down 3 separate times. Not that I'm bitter or anything. You get word of a transport coming in with a person that you need, and you need to blow up a power plant on the outskirts, and this is a very interesting mission. When you tamper with it, your body starts to have issues because of the power going through you, and it even messes with Johnny. You reach the transport, fight some more, follow the tracks, fight again, and catch up with the VIP Hellman. The main thing is that you get some information from them and get ready for the future of the game and how to cure your current predicament. This is also a good time to mention how much Johnny has been involved now with the game and the story. He comes into play just about at all times through the story, either just his input or optional dialogue that helps a ton of the story and what you should probably do. This is the first time you get a major mental attack and have a true one-on-one with Johnny. It's very well done and starts to make the connection that you would feel for them deeper. I eventually didn't want to have him out of my head because I liked having the company doing missions and good banter. Well, after that section of the story, I dove into some more side content, got closer to Judy after Evelyn died, and decided at some point to help get revenge. This chain of quests is by far my favorite in the game, but it's mostly due to how much I like the character Judy. Her voice acting is done very well, and it was good to have a familiar face after the crazy events in the intro of everyone dying. I then found a weird side quest regarding a prisoner who believes that they're the second coming of Christ. It's a very strange story section, and kind of just takes you along with it. The people with him aren't very happy that you're there, but I saw through it and put the man on the cross as he bled to death. Mostly did it to see what would happen and get paid. After this mission, it was time to get into the world of Mad Max, or at least the street racing that they do here in Night City. You meet up with Claire from the afterlife and help her get to winning some races. It doesn't feel too great, but it's playable. The overlying story for these ended up being the main part to see. Throughout parts of the game, Pan Am's story will keep coming up. The main thing of her is that she keeps going back to her nomad clan that she's left behind, as you help her with them and eventually earn their trust. She wants to keep doing things to better them while their current leader, Saul, doesn't want to have much conflict for the protection of the clan. You get to drive a flying tank though, so there's that benefit. Plus you get deeper with the clan to help you later on in the game when the time comes if you need them. It's essentially the most needed side quest in the entire game that you should probably do. A lot of the side content after this was mostly just filler, helping out a corporal husband and wife with their mayor election and an attack that just occurred, helping a cop named River with a case, shoot some shit, the basics. But it eventually pulled in time to get to the finale of the Mad Max races with Claire. It was all a play to have her get to the final race to get revenge for her husband who died. You can talk her down from killing the man, but well, it doesn't exactly work out. Things like this are a nice touch to me, and why I like this type of story. You're here, you can make changes, but not everything you say will change the world around you, and it shouldn't. Yes, you're the main character, but the world doesn't revolve around you, and it shouldn't. With a good chunk of the story content out of the way, it is time to go back and get through the story. You then go to meet a group called the Voodoo Boys. I think this group is very interesting, but not nearly utilized enough in the game. You need to try and get some information from the GIM, which gives information from someone named Alt Cunningham, who is needed to help you in the future with the relic. Here's probably a good time as ever to mention that the game keeps saying that this is a stealth mission, so I was nervous the entire time. However, the objective never stated that I needed to. You eventually get to a boss that is pretty damn terrible, so much so that it straight up crashed my game. Thankfully, you can just walk past the boss and get into the main story part. It hints that the Voodoo Boys are bad and they wanted to kill you, but I'm still not sure. The main thing was that you get to the person that you're trying to meet and get access to Alt Cunningham. However, this is where I heard a line of dialogue that got me way more interested in the road of Cyberpunk, that I'm sad I didn't notice it earlier.
This an old subway tunnel?
No, part of the transcontinental maglev system. when all states were connected. Like the net, it too crumbled after the war.
I didn't realize that America and a lot of the world have pretty much fallen and the world is just run by corporations. So basically not far from our current future. Makes me want to get the books of the universe. Well, you dive into a tub, play as Johnny Silverhand, and experience his world some more. In a section that is a bit more detailed than necessary, you get on with Alt Cunningham, have some combat, and learn about Alt Cunningham being dead and turned into an AI. From here, it's time to raid a massive parade in one of the best visual set pieces in the game. The goal is to get your buddy Takamura onto the main float so he can meet with your noble sister. This plan is all but terrible, but it's good to see, especially when you don't fully pay attention to your surroundings. Well, you kidnap Hanako, talk to her some, and get ambushed. You make it out, and it's just about the time for the end set of missions. Hanako decides she wants to help you, but at a cost that will come up shortly. Now is the time to take care of the remaining important side quests. The main ones are getting closer with Judy, with taking down the Club Clouds, exploring an underwater city, and Willowmaker Bay. Then there were some other impressive things like working with the cop River to take down some crazy man kidnapping people because he was abused when he was young and treated people like cows. Take down some more people in the corporal world, but not nearly as exciting as other quests. Lastly, it was time to give Johnny some fun times and enjoy life again. It was time to track down Adam Smasher, which didn't pan out, meet up with the old band and play a song, and then move on. As much as I wasn't a huge fan of the music, it was still a blast to see. Oh, and I accidentally got conned and ended up in a place seen at the beginning of the game. It was a nice little throwback. As you can see, I really like spending time and not the main story, mostly because I just wanted to stay on the road, but with all the good things, it's gotta come to an end. It is time to decide how to end the game. Meet with Hanako and learn about the options for how to carry on the end of the game. I didn't really want to experience all 8 options for the ending, mostly because I wanted to stick with my gut option. You can either speak with the Arasaka clan of Hanako and hope for the best, which is dumb, give control to Johnny, or go all in with Panam. There's a hidden option where Johnny says you can go in solo, but nah, didn't seem like a good idea to me at the time. I met up with Panam, got a plan to get into the Arasaka Tower, and get inside and plug into their main hub area and fix what has happened. I think this ending combat section is extremely fun. You get to fly around in a crazy tank, use all the tools that you acquired up to this point, and kill everyone in your way. It's not difficult, but I'm glad. With how much I've done up to this point, I wanted to feel powerful. However, there's still going to be a final boss battle.
Fuck!
You get to take on Adam Smasher head on, and it's a long fight. It's also hard if you aren't good with the movement options. I also shot the man in the face because why would I let him live? He killed Saul and Johnny, so he needed to die. I wanted my revenge for Johnny, not so much Saul, but yeah. Here's the final section of the story where it was rather difficult with the options given. Johnny has been removed from your body. However, the amount of damage done to you, you will die in around 6 months no matter what. You can choose to stay as an AI, give the body to Johnny and live forever, but that wasn't my goal. I wanted to get back to Judy. I said my goodbyes to Johnny, and I was honestly bummed. I didn't want to have him gone from the second opinion in my head. You wake up on the outskirts of the city of Panam, making your way from the city. This I didn't like. I wanted to have the choice here what my character does. I didn't get to invite Judy, say my goodbyes, just was forced to leave. I even tried to call her, but there was no answer. You then find out that she's also at the camp with you, so I'm thankful for that. You and the clan leave the city and have a happy ending, all with everyone giving their calls saying goodbye. It's rather bittersweet, and I'm sad that it was over with.
You don't believe in no fate. Every day digging the grave. Step in the pit with the snakes. City of dreams, city of gang. You don't believe in no fate. I might just dig up your grave. Step in the pit with a gang. City of dreams, city of gang, 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 gang. City of dreams, 70 grave.
There is still a lot to see in the game of Cyberpunk 2077, but I felt my story in the road was done. I don't know how they're going to expand the game when that comes out, which I believe is not till 2023 now. But in general, the combat felt enjoyable. I've seen multiple videos where people go all in with the melee builds. That wasn't for me. I eventually just stuck with the smart weapons because I just liked how it looked, and with how the bullets tracked where people looked cool. I found some of the guns to be rather inaccurate, or perhaps I've just gotten worse at games over the years and just needed the assistance at times. I never dove deep into the tech abilities that you get outside of resetting people's eyes, which alone is kind of terrifying to me. I hated when people would overheat me and I would just catch on fire. Something about this road just seems awful at times when you start thinking about it. Imagine someone just staring at you and you just come bust into flames. Sounds like an episode of X-Files. I played this game for this video on the PS5 with the upgrade that they finally put out. I do, however, own 3 copies of this game now. I have it on PC since release, the $10 version for PS4, and the digital version for PS5 because I'm just crazy. The trigger feedback was a good touch, though not groundbreaking. It added to the experience for sure. I did very quickly become very tired of the speaker on the controller every single time the relic had a malfunction. It was very loud. I could have turned it off, but I felt like it would have been annoying on the TV as well. The bugs in the game weren't nearly as bad as I've seen in videos. Granted, they're still prevalent. I played the PC version at release, never had any major issues there, just some weird body physics or things like that. I eventually just had a mental thing that anytime a weird thing would happen in the world, I just pictured it as V's mind breaking down and her not being able to understand what's going on around her. I think more people should experience this game. Go into it with a specific mindset. No GTA in the future, but a mercenary for hire with a weird voice in their head. Solve people's problems, go be a hitman, solve corporate crimes, and so on. That alone is what kept me going back to it day after day, even after working a 12-hour shift at work. I wanted to just see more. After over 250 gigs worth of footage, I still wanted to keep going. But I'm running out of space, so I kinda can't keep doing that. Cyberpunk is definitely a janky masterpiece. It has issues, but was one of the most enjoyable gaming experiences I've had since pretty much The Witcher 3, but not as long as of an investment was required. I hope this video was able to shed some light for people who wanted to see a positive look at the game, or at least hear a non-negative thing on the internet. If you still think this game is a disaster, well, that's what YouTube comments are for. I hope you enjoyed this video regardless, and there will be more videos coming up soon. Had some things going on, but Cyberpunk pulled me back into the creative field again. Stay tuned for more, though it will be a game that you probably won't expect. Until then, see you on the next.